Okay, before I start today's Retrobat and Namco System 246 and 256 setup, guys, just make sure to hit notifications, subscribe and like if you like what you see today. Helps my channel out a great deal, plus it gets you retro emulation content just like this one today. And let me just remind you also that I've got an entire playlist of over 100 different Retrobat setup guides at this point. So we're looking at Namco 246 and 256 today. Let me tell you, this isn't a very simple system for your Retrobat to set up. Games don't particularly work too well, although some might, but we're going to get you there. So what we need to do first is just head up to the Retrobat shortcut, right click on it, open file location, back to UI, system list, and under Emulationstation system file, just make sure this one is actually on es_systems. Now under system, we're going to scroll down until we find Namco. Let me just remind you, if you don't see this drop down list like many people say, I do have a fully comprehensive setup guide to get you running with this so you can actually see it. You're missing a couple of files more than likely. So here's Namco 2x6. Okay, now under extensions it just says .zip, and I think that's debatable. It's yeah, there's a bit more to it in this, but we're gonna get there. Under cores libretro, this is your RetroArch core section. We don't have any RetroArch cores for this particular system, so once we're inside Retrobat, we do need to download an emulator named Play. Now the issue is with Play is that it's not the greatest emulator. In fact, I covered Play yesterday for PlayStation 2 and the results were debatable. So what we're going to do then with this little help we got just here is do what I did, and we're going to really go for this. Yesterday when I was researching, there was no information for this, how to set this up, so I've kind of done this myself and it does work. So what we're going to do then, we're going to look at game files first. Now with back to UI, it's just advised us that we need .zips. Now that's partially true. What it doesn't say is that we also need .chd files to go alongside those .zips. So for example, we got .zip just here, and inside .zip we got lots of different files. So we got these .ic002s, and you know, there's a few folders in some of these games, but this is generally the content inside of the .zip files. It kind of works a little bit like particular main games where you're going to need the sample files to go alongside the main .zip games. So what we need to do is also have an accompanying .chd file to go with the actual zip itself. Now what we need to do with the .chd file is put this into a folder. So if we right click on the desktop, new, folder. Now I'm going to call this one Tekken 4, and there's a little bit more to it in this, so it's not this simple. So we got Tekken 4 just here, and I'm going to drag that .chd inside of there. So right now then for Tekken 4, we got Tekken 4.zip with those old files inside it, and we've also got our .chd inside of the Tekken 4 folder. Right, so inside of your Retrobat directory, we're going to go down to ROMs, and we're going to find Namco just here, and here it is, Namco 2x6, and we're going to drop both of those inside of there for now. Now there's more to it in this, like I'm saying, but first of all, we do need to open up Retrobat. Okay, so if you've done this right, you're going to see Namco System 246, 256 in Retrobat. Now what we're going to do is just go into that folder, and here's my game Tekken 4. If I open this up, silly, so we need to download the Play emulator like I've said, so we're going to install that by pressing yes. Okay, and as you can see and you can hear, it's extremely laggy, and I'm afraid this is kind of the case with several of the games I've tested out for this setup guide, is that they will play, only the quality is really bad, as the Play emulator that we downloaded is bad. Unfortunately, Play is also a PlayStation 2 emulator, and yes, we got PCSX2, but PCSX2 isn't supporting Namco System 246, 256 games. So what we're going to do is just exit out of Retrobat for now. So main menu and quit. So once we close out of Retrobat, what we're going to do, we're going to go back into the Retrobat directory. So shortcut again, right click, open file location. This time we're going to head down into the emulators folder, and in emulators you're going to find Play. Just scroll down a touch and here's Play. Now because we've downloaded the Play emulator using Retrobat, we've now got some folders in here and some files. Now what we need to look for is the arcade depths. Now under here is all the files for the games which this system supports. So it's not all of the games to my knowledge, but this is the games that are supported right now, as of now recording this video. So for example, my Tekken game is listed just here. And if we open this up using Notepad, it will tell us here what the ID and the name of the game is called. So we got other odd titles here for some of the games. And for another example, in my games folder, I have got a couple more games. Now one of these is Ridge Racer. Now if I drop a .zip and a .folder containing my .chd into the Retrobat Namco folder just titled Ridge Racer, it's not going to work. So what we need to do is refer to this arcade depths folder, and we got to search for Ridge Racer in here, and here it is, rrvac.arcadedef. If we open this up, we got Ridge Racer. So we need to ensure that the folder we create for Ridge Racer is titled exactly the same as what this says just here, so rrvac. Okay, so if I go back to that games folder, you'll notice that I've created a rrvac folder with the .chd inside, and I've also got the accompanying .zip to go with it. Like Tekken 4, it's got the odd files in there, the .ic files. So you're also going to find in some cases, or I have at least, is that by just dropping your games, the .zip and the folder into your Retrobat ROMs Namco folder, they're not going to show up. Or like I say, at least for me, some of these haven't on testing for this setup guide. So in that case, what we need to do is go to Play Data Files, Arcade ROMs, and what we're going to do is just drop the .zip and folder containing that .chd inside of that arcade ROMs folder, and I'm going to make a copy of these, and I'm also going to paste these into my Retrobat ROMs folder and back into that Namco folder. So like I say, in case you don't see your games show up just by dropping them into your Retrobat ROMs Namco folder, just make sure they're in that arcade ROMs folder as well, the same as what I'm about to paste in here. And there they are. So like I've been saying, it's not as straightforward as some other systems, and I've had to play this by constantly testing out what works, what doesn't work. The Retrobat wiki doesn't really contain a great deal of information on getting Namco set up. So what we're going to do is open up Retrobat once more. Okay, and as we can see, we've now got Ridge Racer V arcade game. Now before we open up this one, let's just go to view options by pressing select on controller, advanced system options. Now as we know, on a lot of Retrobat systems we're going to get the choice for emulators at the top just here, but we don't have this for Namco. As we know, we just got Play supporting this, or supposedly supporting this. Now, under decorations, we do have some decorations here to apply to it. Because it's not running through RetroArch, we don't have a fancy specific decoration for it. To my knowledge, a lot of these games for Namco systems are in 4:3 ratio, so if you want to apply one of these decorations just here, go for it. Now, internal resolution, this apparently goes up to 16K, but now testing Play Emulator in yesterday's PlayStation 2 setup guide I did using Play Emulator, it barely runs even at native 480p. But the potential is there in future updates for Play and of course future updates for Retrobat itself. So I suggest just leaving this to auto for now. Smooth games, we can take away pixelation in our games, but literally just by leaving this to auto, that's going to select on for us anyway. Under video, we got forceful screen mode and we got widescreen. And if we go to emulation, we can choose a language. Now, the games I have tested for this setup guide tend to be in English just by leaving this to auto. And under drivers, by auto, it's going to select OpenGL. Now, if you've got games which are supposed to boot, but they don't, try changing that over to Vulkan. And these are called back-end drivers. I'm going to leave this to auto for now. And let's just download some artwork for these games. So, main menu, scraper, and I'm going to just go to scrape now. Okay, finished. Update game list to apply changes. So scroll back up the game settings and main menu, update game list, really update game list, press yes. Okay, here we go. So let's open up Ridge Racer for now. Now, bear in mind, I find that most of the games don't work with controller. Now, we do have some information how to actually set up our controllers, which I'm going to get onto in a minute. Let's open up Ridge Racer for now. So just use your hotkeys to do that. In my case, I'm pressing start and select together, and that's going to bring us back to Retrobat. Let's go to quit. Now what I'm going to do is just once again go to the Retrobat directory, right click on it, open file location, and we're going to go back down to emulators, and we're going to find that play folder again. We go inside the play. If we go into the Play emulator itself from here, as we have no controller settings once we're inside Retrobat, we're going to go to play.exe. Now, ignore everything you see just here. What we're going to do is go to Options, Controller Manager. Now, technically, this is where we get to configure our controller. Now, sadly, I can't configure my controller. I think at some point during the setup guide process when I was researching this and trying things out for myself, I got Coin to work once. But this is what you see, and what I recommend doing is just adding a profile to this. So just go to Add and type in a profile name, so just Jamie in my case. OK on this. Now what we're going to do is just map out our controllers. So for example, on analog left, I'm going to double left click on this. And then on my Xbox controller, I'm going to just shift my analog left stick to the left. And then we're going to go to analog right and do the same again on your right analog stick. And D-pad up. And like it says, you need to hold this for a few seconds for it to assign. And we're going to go to down. and left. And literally follow this right till you get to the bottom. Now, obviously, if you're using a Xbox controller and you're not familiar with PlayStation buttons, then for Xbox, square is going to be your X button, triangle is going to be the Y button, circle is going to be your B button, and cross is going to be your A button. Now let me just say in advance that apparently we can access a test menu similar to other arcade systems I've covered, which in order to set up a particular game by pressing these combination of buttons, we can access the test menu to configure controllers. I can't get this working, and I have tried and I tried and I tried. If you can get this working, please drop it in the comments for other people to see what you've done. Okay, and finally we've got R3. Now just to remember that L3 and R3 are your analog sticks pressed down. Okay, so we've now done this. What we're going to do is just go to apply. Okay, so we can do this just fine, but once we've done this, whilst we're Retrobat, your controller still isn't going to work. So what I'm going to do is suggest what it does say on the Retrobat wiki, and by going to play data files, we can go to input profiles, and you'll see that that joystick, or rather controller configuration that I've just mapped out, is now created a .xml file. If we open this up with Notepad, we can see that every input that I've just inputted into the controller mapping is listed here. So all good and well. So what we're going to do is open up Retrobat again. Okay, back into Namco. Now, because we've configured controllers, now technically you would assume this will work. So what I'm going to do is open up Ridge Racer V now. And now, like I say, technically I should be able to play this game, but we're going to see. And we're going to try Tekken 4 this time. And as we can see, absolute garbage, totally unplayable, something like 2 frames per second. Okay, so we're on the Retrobat wiki for Namco, as we can see. So if we look at the controls section just here in the Retrobat wiki, it's saying that we can create our very own .xml input for each game, but each one of these .xml profiles needs to be named exactly like the game name. So what we're going to do, we're going to head back into the Retrobat shortcut and we're going to actually test this out. So Retrobat, open file location, and we're going to go back down to emulators and we're going to go back to the play folder, and we need to make sure then that these .xml control profiles are named exactly how the game files are themselves. So to test this, what we're going to do is go back into play data files, arcade ROMs, and what I'm going to do here is just right click on the .zip on Ridge Racer, rename, and I'm going to make a copy of that game title. Now if I come back out and I go into input profiles, under just Jamie here, which is how I configured my controllers just now in play, I'm going to rename this to that Ridge Racer name. Now technically, if we open up Ridge Racer, this should respond to it. So I'm also going to take away default.xml and just leave this be. So let's open up Retrobat again and try out Ridge Racer with that XML input profile. Okay, so Namco and Ridge Racer. And I'm still getting no input, so let's just press escape again. So that's it for today's setup guide. Like I always say, we can actually see the games, although games are very bad at running. They can barely touch 5 FPS, I'd imagine. Controller wise, I've done exactly how it's mapped out in the Retrobat wiki, and like I say, I'll leave the link to the wiki in the description of this video. But we got there, we kind of got there. At least, like I say, we can see your Namco game collection and how to put your games in there. So like I say, I did cover Play yesterday. It's a standalone emulator, and to say it's a poor emulator, I mean, even the developers of the Play emulator say that PCSX2 is much superior, but that's another story. But anyways, if you like what you see today, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content. And just bear in mind that it's not just Retrobat that I cover here on my channel, just Jamie, but many different standalone emulators and many different platforms and front ends just like Retrobat. Anyways, join me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. But until next time, stay retro.